Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Let's face it, making money is not as easy as it used to be. And in today's environment of high taxes and low income returns, business karna to dur ki baat hai, even mid-level jobs are not enough to live a comfortable life. And as jobs get outsourced and people get more and more desperate, the situation is only going to get worse. But here's the thing, even if you're just a middle-class salary earner who knows nothing about investing, learning just a few investment rules can turn that whole situation around. From simple things like sourcing money to making the right investment choices, here are Robert Kiyosaki's 6 investing rules that are necessary to make it in today's world. And you better watch till the end, because the last few alone would be enough to take you from your current income to over 6 figures in a matter of months. Now I'm sure if you've ever looked into financial advice, then you've come across the name Robert Kiyosaki. And even if you've never heard of him specifically, I'm willing to bet that you've heard of his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And while the book covers a lot of things from basic strategies to complicated financial concepts, it all comes down to 6 investment tools. And believe me, if you want to have any chance of making enough money, you need to follow these rules because they apply to both the biggest billionaires like Bill Gates and Ambani ji to simple middle-class workers like you and me. So without delaying any further, let's jump into the list with rule number 1, financial education. I think everyone can agree that learning the basics of something is the very first step towards truly understanding and eventually mastering it. This is why we start by learning ABCs instead of jumping straight into linguistic analysis. But the thing is, that's exactly what's happening in the world of finance. People are jumping into the core of investing without understanding the very basics of what they're trying to accomplish. So the very first step towards becoming a successful businessman, according to Kiyosaki, is to get the appropriate financial education. Luckily for you, you're already doing that by watching this video. But that is only the first step. As Robert Kiyosaki explains, financial education is about knowing how to leverage debt, assets, liabilities, and cash flow, not just what income and expenses are. Understanding the basics of accounting processes and cash flow management can also help. This can be done by trying to look into online courses, as well as in the form of real-world experience by taking risks. And speaking of understanding the basics, let's talk about knowing something that sometimes even businessmen overlook. Rule number 2, understanding the kinds of income. If you're wondering how knowing the theory of business can make a difference for you in terms of actual practice, you don't really have to look far. Because according to Kiyosaki, the single biggest conspiracy that you've faced throughout your traditional education is that the 3 kinds of income have been kept secret from you. Let me explain. Now, it is no secret that most of us are job-holding people who are looking to earn money and use it to buy more stuff. And for most of us, owning properties, making investments, or doing a business is just a different way to get the same money, right? Wrong. You see, not only is that money different in the effort it takes to get it, but it is fundamentally different from money made by getting jobs. This is because it falls under the category of either portfolio income, which you acquire by selling things like stocks when they rise in value, or the category of passive income, which is everything from rent vagera or to any business you're a shareholder in. And what makes these different from earned income, which is what you and I earn, is that these kinds of income are not taxed nearly as much as the other kind, which is pretty big on its own. Because India maybe, income taxes are rising fast, but also because not having tax limitations allows this income to rise far quicker than simple jobs. तो जहां आप और मैं सालों साल काम करके मुश्किल से गुजारा करते हैं, वहीं these businessmen are paying fewer taxes, are making greater profits, and are growing faster while doing little to no work. So the first step on your journey towards becoming a pro investor would be to be able to distinguish these types of income and to set your priorities according to that. But that is easier said than done, because of course, investing in a business on your own is very risky, right? Well, let's talk about that in rule number 3. Investing isn't risky. If you thought that not knowing how passive income is fundamentally different from plain income was a pretty big conspiracy, then the media and society telling you that investing money into businesses is unnecessarily risky is an even bigger one. But there has to be some merit to that claim, right? I mean, having money safe in your bank account while earning a stable income from a job has to be less risky than investing all that money in a volatile market without the security that comes from the job. Well, according to Kiyosaki, that couldn't be further from the truth. Because according to him, banking all your income on a job from where you could be fired at any time and saving money in a bank whose entire business model is to misguide you and use your money is far riskier than going out and trying to invest for yourself. In fact, according to him, whatever risk there is in the situation really comes down to how much you know about the business in the first place. And if you followed the very first rule of this list, you have nothing to worry about here. But knowing what kind of income to invest in and how to invest isn't enough either. To truly grow your portfolio, you need to invest with a goal in mind. And that goal is the topic of rule number 4, invest for cash flow. I think everyone can agree that the vast majority of middle-class people, like you or me, are trying to earn money to save it and buy stuff with it. घर, गाड़ी, iPhone, ये सब चीजें. But the thing is, as long as your goal is to only generate income that you then use to buy stuff or save, it doesn't matter if you're investing or have a job, because that money will just sit around and go waste. When instead, you could be using that money to build your investment portfolio by generating something called cash flow. You see, in a basic financial statement, you have all your basics, like your income, expenses, assets, and your liabilities. But in the financial statement of a successful investor, there is also a little something called cash flow. This is when you take an income and use it to buy assets. Assets that in turn bring in more income that you use to buy more valuable assets, and so on and so forth. Or in other words, cash flow is when the cash you earn flows back into the market to bring in even more cash. And in these cases, while you may have less hard cash to spend at all times, over time, your assets and the income of those assets will be far, far greater than if you just tried to generate revenue for profit. As Kiyosaki puts it, instead of focusing on acquiring income, what if we focus on just acquiring assets so that the assets go into the income process? That's our game called cash flow. And that entrepreneurs have got to know how to create assets. If you don't know those things, you should not be an entrepreneur. You should be an employee. Now that's nice and all, but it's all not going to matter if you don't have the cash to do things in the first place. And that brings us to the last two, and in my and Kiyosaki's opinion, the most important rules. The first of which is rule number 5, use other people's money. Now I've mentioned a lot of lies that society tells you in this video, but none of them are as shocking as the one I'm about to tell you. That being the reality that debt is good. Let me explain. Most of us job-earning folk have been conditioned to believe that having debt means that you will be losing money in the long term, and that the number one goal of your financial life should be to get out of and stay away from debt as much as possible. But the thing is, the only reason that debt is so hard on us is that we use it like idiots. Instead of using it to buy iPhones and expensive bikes, if we used that debt to generate wealth by investing or starting a business, not only will that debt cause us profit in the long run, but it will also help us save money than if we just used our own money. Because guess what? All debt is tax-free. And even in India, जहां business क्या खाने तक के पैसे आराम से नहीं मिलते, as long as you have the right mindset, goal, and a financial statement with a good cash flow rating, you can get more than enough money to build a business. And all of that debt will pay for itself while saving you from awful taxes. And that brings us to the last part of our video. Rule number 6. Always raise capital. I think the number one biggest reason that people in India are struggling to venture into businesses and startups is that they all believe in the myth of using their own money. And I know this might also come as a shock to many of you watching, but the fact of the matter is that no investor worth his mettle will ever try to use their own savings and money to start a business. Instead, if he's really serious about it, he'll try to raise the money in the form of capital investment. In fact, trying to raise money for a project instead of using up your savings and income is the main theme of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, in which Kiyosaki repeatedly mentions My rich dad forbade me from ever saying I can't afford it. He said to figure out how you can afford it. And that is the thing that you and I must understand in order to become as successful as we dream of becoming. And as long as you followed the rest of the rules, if you invested in the right things, generated good cash flow, and educated yourself in the world of finance, this last piece of the puzzle will make you into someone you've always wanted to be. And that wraps up our list of the 6 necessary rules of investing. But before you go, we'd love to hear from you what you think is a better way to invest money, to open a business, or to buy properties. Please let us know in the comments below. And well, on that note, we must end today's video. If you found it helpful and want to learn more, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. With that, take care and I'll see you guys next time.